Hello everyone, welcome back to our last section of the video, which hopefully will be a little more enjoyable and less long than our last section, the background section, which was big. And so, in this section, what I would like to talk about is art and engineering as being physical languages to express and define the experience of being human. And under that heading, the subheading of art will be defined as the product of poetic energy in whatever form of expression they may be put forward. Engineering, the act of directing the great sources of nature for the use and convenience of man. And to this definition I've added the creation of tools and technologies that will manifest themselves within a larger social structure and which are meant to benefit that larger social structure. I think that two-part definition of engineering is really necessary in our modern age. And so I created a chart comparing these two physical languages of art and engineering. And through the points that I talk about here, I'm really going to explain the ways in which art can enhance the culture of the engineer. And the first point of discussion is that the artist observes nature and society while the engineer is in many ways displaced from nature and society. And if the engineer were able to incorporate a more of an observational practice within his practice of engineering, I believe that he would be able to accomplish two primary things. The first of which is that he would be able to understand the value systems of his society and how his technologies perpetuate those value systems. Additionally, the engineer would have a sense of the ways in which his designs and technologies go out and affect society, and then the ways in which society affect his designs and his problem-solving approach. Next, we have the idea of the artist having unrestrained, unbounded creativity, while the engineer is restrained by feasibility. And the engineer is always operating in these bounds of feasibility. If it doesn't work on paper, it doesn't work. Let's do the equations. What do the equations say? What do the textbooks say? And I think that there's a lot to be gained from having more creative energy and putting that to a better purpose. And so the engineer, while all that creative energy may not be productive in creating a feasible design, I believe it will help the engineer to find the most innovative solution to the problem at hand. And ultimately lead to less destructive designs that are less harmful on nature. The next topic is the values of the artist versus the values of the engineer. And the artist values aesthetics and individuality, and aesthetics is a critical reflection on art, nature, and culture. And I think that would be very, very valuable for the engineer to have that in his toolbox, to have that skill set in his toolbox. And individuality, understanding the individuality of human nature and of human experience. And so with these two values, I believe the engineer could work beyond efficiency and generality. He could work beyond the principle of domination as an organizing principle, but perhaps he could use aesthetics as an organizing principle for his designs. Last, or second to last, that the artist seeks to understand life while the engineer seeks to structure life. And I think it's a little bit silly that we seek to structure something before we seek to understand it. And so I think by having a greater understanding of society, the engineer will really be able to structure society in a more humane way, in a way that is better for all of humanity. And he will also be able to acknowledge that there is some element of the unknown. He will be able to acknowledge the unanticipated impacts that his technologies may or may not have. And the last topic here is the artist being experimental while the engineer is technical. And this goes back to the educational context that we discussed before of the British tradition, the experimental tradition falling out of the engineering culture. And engineering culture really relying on technical things like equations, what's in the textbooks. And so we learn why a chair will fall down based on our force calculations. So we don't build the chair and see it fall down. And I think that if engineers were given a little bit more room to experiment and to learn through experimentation, it would produce stronger engineers more capable of addressing today's problems. So, lots of ideas there. And the big point is that these qualities need not be separated. They need not be separated into the artist and the engineer. If the engineer can take some of those qualities of the artist and make them his own, I believe he will create truly more humane structures for society and culture. And we have a great quote by Theo Jansen, who's an amazing guy. Go do some research on him, see all the cool stuff that he does. And what he said in a BMW commercial was that the walls between art and engineering exist only in our minds. And I think this is a great quote. I completely trust whatever he says. And I think we can really think about this in a personal way. If you were going out to purchase a car, I think most people would prefer to purchase a car that was created by an artist and an engineer than a car that was strictly created by an artist or strictly created by an engineer. We really want both of them working on our cars. So I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I'm just going to leave you with these last few words, that without art, the earth is just